Brother, do you want to bring glory to the Imperium? Do you want to serve your God Emperor? Of course you do. Anything else would be considered heresy, and we'd have to lobotomize you and turn you into a servitor. Here, take this gene cell, let us pump you full of drugs, and recite this prayer to our holy Emperor 50 million times. Congratulations, you're a spaceman. Now go and bring the Emperor's fury to our enemies, the Xeno, the mutant, and the heretic.
Welcome to the world of Warhammer 40k, the most grimdark of grimdark settings where your life sucks and everything in the universe is trying to kill you. From the slum dweller that just wants to close off your back, all the way to the all-encompassing threat of Xeno Swarm threatening to devour you whole. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is a third-person hack and slash and shoot everything you see that puts you in the shoes of disgraced Captain Demetrian Titus. It is your duty to redeem yourself of your past transgressions by eradicating as many of these filthy alien abominations as possible, and that is exactly what you will do, for death is your craft and eternal service your pledge. To set the tone for the current review, let's take a look back at the first entry in the Space Marine series. You are Captain Demetrian Titus of the Ultramarines, sent to the Forge world of Graia to protect it from an orc invasion. During this conflict, Titus discovers the influence of Chaos forces, and as any true blue Space Marine, he takes it upon himself to eliminate the Chaos threat at its core. However, one of Titus' squadmates, Leandros, becomes suspicious of him as he can resist the influence of Chaos a little too well. This makes Leandros call in the Inquisition and take Captain Titus away. After years of inquisitorial interrogation and torture, Titus is set free and transferred to the Death Watch chapter of Space Marines, where he has been fighting Tyranids for about a century. It is here on his most recent mission to a planet called Kadaku that Titus must launch a chemical agent into the atmosphere that will help in delaying the Tyranid threat. After 13 years of cliffhanging, we finally get the chance to continue the story of Titus. The opening scene shows how he and his kill team have their transporter ripped to shreds by swarms of Tyranids, causing him to be separated from his group and damaging his Vox, cutting off any communications. As he tries to regroup and fulfill his mission, he hears how his kill team is being slowly taken out one by one. After recovering the chemical agent and realizing he is the last one left standing from his kill team, he takes it upon himself to launch the agent into the atmosphere. However, the Tyranid swarm has something to say about that, and it becomes a desperate last stand for Titus to protect the launching system until it is ready to fire. And so he does, like the absolute badass that he is. He stands his ground against endless hordes of Tyranids, forcing the swarm to send a Carnifex against him. Sadly, there are limits even to what a Space Marine can do, and after a grueling battle against the Carnifex, Demetrian Titus is killed in action. Luckily for him, however, reinforcements were there to find him in the nick of time. Due to his primary heart being pierced, it was deemed that the only way to save Titus was to have him undergo the Rubicon Primaris, a grueling surgery that allows Titus to be reborn as a Primaris Space Marine. After waking up, he is reinstated into the Ultramarines chapter as a lieutenant and is given a squad to command consisting of Sergeant Gadriel and Brother Chiron, alongside others to defend the sector against the Tyranids. However, he must keep his past a secret from his brothers lest questions arise that will cause friction within the ranks, since many do not look favorably upon those that have been accused of heretical behavior. The story is set up in such a way that allows for more than just your normal battle-hardened protagonist and friends dialogue. Gadriel is not pleased at having lost command of his squad, yet he follows Titus while keeping a close eye on him. Chiron is also puzzled by the sudden introduction of Titus into the equation, but he wants to keep the team together, so he tries to placate his brothers whenever conflict would arise. Titus is forced to keep his silence, otherwise he risks another accusation of heresy, thus he becomes an enigma to those around him. There is secrecy and intrigue here that leads to good moments in the story and character interactions. I just think it needed more time and resources dedicated to make it actually great. Don't misunderstand, however, I definitely enjoyed my time with the story of Space Marine 2, I just wish there was more of it. There's definitely something about being the stoic warrior that never gives up despite the odds, alongside his band of battle brothers that attracts me, especially if you sprinkle some mystery in there combined with great dialogue that allow for character conflict and growth. Anyway, once Titus was reinstated, I had full access to the Battle Barge, this giant gothic spacefaring warship which serves as the player hub and was also allowed to access the main campaign, the co-op PvE mode, and the PvP mode at my discretion. The main campaign, while a bit short at 6 or so hours, does offer you a fun time, allowing you to revel in the glory of exterminating wave after wave of Tyranids with a vast selection of death-dealing implements at your disposal. When I just started the campaign, I was looking left and right trying to find new weapons to try out and see if I could find the strongest. That's not exactly how it works, however. As I tried different weapons, both ranged and melee, I quickly realized that weapons are designed in such a way that they have strengths and weaknesses. If I picked up a bolter rifle, I might be able to clear a good number of waves of gaunts without much of an issue, but I would struggle against heavier units as the weapon didn't pack enough firepower to kill it without unloading an entire clip into the beast. This is the part where your AI companions come into play, or should come into play at least. Playing on the third hardest difficulty, since that was the intended experience, I came to the realization that I couldn't really throw myself into the fray and mow down all of my enemies without ending up being close to death. This confused me at first, as I thought this was supposed to be a power fantasy experience, and yet every single battle was a struggle. My so-called battle brothers didn't seem to be doing anything to lighten the load either, which made me feel like I was back on Kadaku just before the Rubicon surgery. The AI companions leave much to be desired in terms of competent help, so I grabbed a few of my friends and I replayed a few of the previous missions to get them all up to speed with my progress in the campaign. It's safe to say, things were so much better when I had my friends at my back, as they were able to provide so much more firepower than the AI companions. It also allowed us to play around with our builds, one of us choosing to be the swarm clearer with fast bolter fire, another could bring enough focused firepower with a sniper or a plasma rifle to almost instantly deal with any elite enemies, while the other was this weird jack-of-all-trades that could do a bit of both. It's clear that the difficulty of Space Marine 2 was balanced around a full team of 3 players, as it was only when we started playing together that I felt the power fantasy kick in. I'm not gonna lie, it's a fun way to spend time with friends and just shoot mountains upon mountains of space bugs while chatting away. I was also surprised by the melee combat in this game. You've got a variety of melee weapons like the versatile chainsword, the quick combat knife, the stance-shifting force sword, the slow but hard-hitting thunder hammer, and the power fist, each with their own set of combos. Some are better for single-target combat, while others shine in swarm control. I took a shine to the Force Sword, as I found it had a great balance between ad clearing and single target damage, especially with it being able to swap its movesets mid-combat to suit those specific situations. Though I have to say that nothing beats the satisfaction I had when I got my hands on the Thunder Hammer. There's just something so instinctual in being able to break every bone in your enemy's body with a giant hammer that I don't think I can get over, even if I think it's not the most efficient weapon in the game. To complement melee combat, Space Marine 2 also has a parrying mechanic. You can parry smaller enemies with the right timing, and that will outright kill them, but what you really want is to be able to parry the larger enemies, as that opens them up to a very cool counterattack. This counter can be triggered either by parrying or dodging at the right time, and is shown as this little red crosshair on the enemy. Pull the trigger in this situation, and your Space Marine will aim his pistol and fire a highly damaging critical shot that doesn't consume ammo and restores a bar of your armor. This can also be triggered if you knock back the enemy with a specific attack, but I found this one to be a little less reliable than just outright parrying and dodging. This is very useful not just as a damage dealing tool, but also as a defensive option due to how HP and armor regeneration work. Space Marine 2 won't allow you to just stock up on your health packs and use them whenever you want. You can only carry 2 at most, and they're supposed to be used when your health reaches critical levels. Instead, the game encourages you to recover your armor in combat. If you get damaged, you'll first lose your armor, and then, once that is depleted, you lose your HP. Armor can be recovered either by brutally executing enemies once they reach a certain HP threshold, or by triggering the countering pistol attack. If you've lost your armor and your HP is starting to take a hit, you have a few precious seconds at your disposal to retaliate and recover the lost health, keeping you in the fight. This combat style forces you to throw yourself recklessly into battle, seeking that next weakened enemy to glory kill and get your fix, rather than taking on a defensive attitude that can be found in almost every cover shooter on the market back in the day. The campaign has a pretty simple structure. You start at the battle barge, you get your orders, you go down to a planet, clear up the map and fulfill whatever objectives you've been given, then return to the battle barge, get new orders, rinse and repeat. This is why I think this game needed a bit more time. It would have been great to be able to see more encounters on the battle barge between Space Marines or other characters that delve even deeper into how things work in the 40k universe. More dialogues, more character development, more opportunities to start and finish sentences with the word brother. That never gets old. However, I will say that while we didn't get too big a focus on other characters and cutscenes, we definitely have a lot of moments with NPCs by just exploring the battle barge. You see Adeptus Mechanicus walking around, some even joining you on the elevator, servitors reporting to their masters for maintenance, people working without sleeping for 3 days and relying only on caffeine to keep them going. And these encounters change around every time you return to the battle barge, giving the vibe that this place is buzzing with people that have to get their job done to keep the gears of war turning, lest they be devoured by the nightmares of the universe. When it comes to the environments in Space Marine 2, I think it's one of the grandest things I've ever seen. You can see that whoever worked on designing these environments loved the 40k universe and worked tirelessly on bringing these details to life. The war-torn vistas showcasing the conflict between the Tyranids and the Imperium, the ruined chapels still maintaining some of their former grandeur, the golden trimmings of the Gothic arches, and beautifully adorned bell towers. These are all details that some would consider superfluous for a game like this, since the main focus is running through the levels killing everything in your way. And yet, once the killing was done, I found myself strangely locked in place, looking around at my surroundings and taking in this absolutely ravaged, yet beautiful world. It makes me wonder how it would have been to see this world before the Tyranid invaded, and if it would look as grand as I imagined, or perhaps even more so. Would it be pristine, the gold and marble shining like a beacon of hope? Or would the marble be cracked and the golden decorations faded, keeping in line with the corruption and the decline of humanity after the Emperor's death? Sure, you have your fair share of levels that remind you of the 2010 shooters, where everything looks brown and gray and samey, but those were few and far between. I was much more impacted by the amount of stunning vistas and larger-than-life monuments and points of interest, which fit perfectly with how absurdly exaggerated the lore of Warhammer 40k is. But it is that sheer absurdity and exaggeration that makes this universe so much more interesting. The environment alone made me wish for an open-world RPG set in the Warhammer 40k universe a la The Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk 2077 that would take us through these amazing places and allow us to interact with them. It sounds like an impossibly difficult undertaking to create such a game due to the sheer size of everything in the 40k universe. How would it even work? Would we have multiple planets to explore or just one planet in particular? And if it's one planet, would we have multiple biomes to explore? Or would we have everything set in just one single but titanic hive city? I can only imagine how difficult it would be to craft a game such as this, but this only makes me want it more. The co-op experience is not restricted solely to the main campaign. There is also a different game mode that allows for 6 extra missions to be played aside from Titus's storyline. These missions follow the 2 other squads under Titus's command and take place at the same time as the main campaign, but in different areas. For example, while Titus is making his way to a tower to send a message, the other squad would need to assist Titus by taking down a powerful hive mind to send the overwhelming Tyranid forces into disarray. While this game mode is accessible at any time, I'd recommend you only start it after completing the main campaign so that you'd avoid any spoilers. The co-op mode isn't all that different from the main campaign in the way missions are structured. However, you will have the ability to choose one of the 6 classes to play with, each with their own loadout and special ability. You've got the Vanguard class that allows you to use a grapple hook to close in on enemies and dropkick them to death, the Heavy that has the Iron Halo shield as well as the ability to use the biggest guns in the game, or the Bulwark that sports a shield capable of blocking ranged fire as well as putting down a flag that regenerates armor for those around it, to name a few. Each class has its own strengths and weaknesses. For example, the Heavy has some of the strongest firepower, but they're forced to enter a very slow heavy stance if they want to be able to use their weapons to the fullest. Not only that, but the Heavy lacks a good melee option, so you're forced to swing your heavy boulder around in a very inefficient way if you're surrounded or you end up running out of bullets. Yes, it happened to me, it was not fun. But since this is co-op, the idea is to mix and match your loadout to complement your team. If you have a sniper in your team, it's safe to say that they have some of the strongest single target damage potential, so you should probably focus on bringing a loadout that helps them by clearing the hordes of smaller enemies easily. Class progression in co-op is pretty straightforward. Grab a class, select your loadout, and go into a mission. You'll earn the overwhelming majority of the EXP by completing mission objectives rather than getting the most kills, which will only net you an extra 10 XP at the mission completion screen, so don't fixate on killing everything that moves too much. It's better to board the elevator or enter the airlock instead of fighting the newly spawned wave. If you want even more EXP, you can search the map for a gene seed. Recovering this gene seed will net you around 30% more EXP at the end of the mission. Be aware though, that if you get downed while in possession of the gene seed, that gene seed will be forever lost. I see some inspiration from Darktide was taken when developing this system. While you're searching for the gene seed, also be on the lookout for these floating skull servitors. Finding these will net you armory points that you can use to unlock higher rarity weapons once you reach the required EXP threshold. These higher rarity weapons boast better stats, so make sure you grab them if you plan on going to the higher difficulties. Also, the EXP you'll be earning for weapons can only be earned by playing with a particular weapon type, so if you want to level up your heavy bolter, then make sure you're not playing with the heavy plasma incinerator or the multi-melta. Armory points can also be used to instantly master any of the weapon variants currently available to you. This makes sure that you don't need to play every single weapon variant to master them. What does mastering a weapon variant do though? Well, it nets you this neat mastery point that can be used in the perk tree of that weapon type, allowing you to unlock powerful new perks for all weapon variants under that weapon type. These perks can be anything from increased range, reduced spread, faster fire rate, or higher damage. Don't be afraid to slot your perks in, as you can easily reset them and rearrange them at any time. PvP, PvP, PvP. I haven't been focused on playing PvP games in a very long time. I'm a pretty competitive person when it comes to games, and I realized it just brought out the worst in me. It stressed me out, it made me angry. Overall, if I didn't win a match, I'd end up staying awake until 4 AM in the morning, only to get one more win so that I can, quote, end it on a positive note, end quote. But it only ended up feeling like a hollow victory. My PvP days have been behind me for years. So imagine my surprise when I found myself trying out a PvP match for funsies, and I actually enjoyed it a great deal. The game is definitely not perfectly balanced, looking at you grenades, but it's fun. A great deal of fun actually. You have just 3 maps available right now, which is very little, but the fights themselves are so engaging, I don't even register the limited number of maps as a downside. You can play as any of the classes that are available in the co-op mode, the only notable difference being the Assault class actually being allowed to fly with their jetpack here, as opposed to the limited flight capabilities they have in the co-op mode. The classes all serve a particular role and feel balanced in the way that they all counter something and can be countered by something else. You'll quickly pick up who can do what. The Tactical class, for example, is great at ranged combat and has a wallhack ability. However, they can be ambushed by an Assault or sniped. The Assault is great for mobility and ambushes, but his focus on melee means he can quickly get overwhelmed if the enemy team reacts fast enough, or if he hovers midair for too long and gets taken out by a Tactical or a Sniper. The Bulwark is great at blocking almost everything, be they ranged or melee attacks, and they can also regenerate their own and their team's armor, so they can easily protect objectives, but they can be stunned by the Vanguard's grapple hook, opening them up to damage. The Vanguard is mobile and can stun with the grapple hook, but that puts them in close range to their enemy, so they need to be careful not to get surrounded. On the flip side, they're not great at long-range battles and will struggle against a Tactical or a Sniper. The Sniper is the king of long-range fights, but will quickly find themselves at a disadvantage if an Assault or Vanguard gets the drop on them. If they take the backstabbing approach with the Bolter Carbine, however, they'll be better in close-range fights, but end up losing their long-range advantage. The Heavy is great for dealing a lot of range damage and locking down areas, but the bullets can be easily blocked by a Bulwark. On and on it goes. You'll have to find ways to play around your own and your enemy's team's composition to try to outdo each other. This circle of weaknesses that reminds me of a Pokemon weakness chart allows for some of the most fun PvP action I've had in years, and it's what kept me glued to this game for much longer than I had anticipated. In fact, it kept me much more engaged than the co-op mode, which I thought would be my main focus after finishing the main campaign. It's just pure dumb fun, and I can't get enough. Of course, I might end up falling out of it sooner or later, as it is with these games, but for now I'm still finding myself wanting to play, especially since I haven't finished unlocking all the weapons in the PvP mode. Progression in PvP is separate from the one in co-op. You'll play matches and you'll level up your veterancy level. Once you reach certain levels, you will unlock new weapon types across all classes, so you don't need to play with a specific class to unlock stuff for it, unless those are cosmetic unlocks. If that's the case, then yes, you'll need to earn EXP for that specific class to unlock certain cosmetics. Speaking of cosmetics, Space Marine 2 offers a large variety of cosmetics for players to unlock. It makes sense considering this is a 40k game based off of a very popular tabletop that focuses on painting your miniature army in whatever color suits your fancy. In both co-op and PvP, you'll have unique cosmetics to unlock for your class that you'll be able to mix and match to your liking, which you can then further customize with colors of your favorite Space Marine chapter. Or you can just create Space Marine McDonald's. Nobody will stop you. Hell, I've seen people wearing Buzz Lightyear colors, so yeah, go crazy. These new customization options look amazing, and no amount of flowery words from me will be able to do them justice. I mean, just look at these. You have all sorts of adornments, golden engravings and iconography, skull decorations, and pauldrons inscribed with whatever creed the chapter has. It's just great, and that's only amplified by the fact that you can mix and match pieces and colors to create the ultimate outfit. There's this really neat heraldry section that will show you a lot of Space Marine chapters and a bit of their lore and flavor. If you want to be able to don these colors yourself, you'll have to unlock these heraldries using your requisition points, which you can earn by playing either co-op or PvP missions. Requisition is shared across all modes, so make sure you make a conscious choice if you want to either become more powerful in co-op or look snazzier in PvP. One downside of the customization system is that you just can't seem to customize the armor sets of Chaos Space Marines, which you will be playing as in PvP every now and then. You can unlock certain colors via the Heraldry tab, but you won't have new armor pieces to unlock as a Chaos Marine, and that's a pretty big bummer in my book, but not a deal breaker. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is an anomaly. It brings back gameplay that the internet would consider ancient, and yet it's been met with success with Steam reviews prompting it to a very positive rating with almost 64,000 reviews. While it definitely has issues like some bad network performance forcing you to return to the main menu whenever you get disconnected, forever loading screens, or simply just waiting endlessly for the game to match you with people, I can't deny the fact that I had a lot of fun with the game. Despite these small frustrations, I find myself returning to the game if only to play a set of PvP matches or level up some more in the co-op mode. The content can, however, get repetitive at times due to the limited variety of maps and enemy types, but thankfully, there's a roadmap that has already been announced promising a new enemy faction, new missions, and a new difficulty, so there is more to look forward to. As for the experience you get out of the box, you can rest assured that it's going to keep you busy for a good chunk of time, as my own game time is currently sitting around the 50-hour mark. If you're a die-hard Warhammer 40k fan, I'm sure Space Marine 2 will scratch that itch to unleash holy fury upon the Xenos. If you're a casual enjoyer of 40k like me, you should definitely jump in if you can handle the $50 price point. I can only hope that Space Marine 2 will have a great impact on the mainstream media, because I need more Warhammer 40k in my life. Movies, shows, games, the works. The universe is jam-packed with interesting stories to be told, and I find it a grievous sin that there are not more out there spreading the good faith of our holy God Emperor. Henry Cavill, wherever you are, I pray for your success. We need you to bring us a 40k show that will bring the entertainment industry to its knees. But that's gonna be it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach my first milestone of 500 subs, so if you like what I do, I'd really appreciate you clicking that sub button and bell icon. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, have a good one.